Hello, everyone. My name is Elisa Ewan, and I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations at Teachers College. Thank you for joining us today for this virtual event sponsored by Alumni Relations. This is one of the many ways you can stay engaged to your TC family. I'd like to quickly remind you of a few more ways you can maintain a meaningful connection with TC. One, hire TC alums and students. Two, refer prospective students back to the college. Three, show your pride by including Teachers College in all of your professional credentials. Four, share your talents and expertise by volunteering to speak at TC events or by joining one of our Alumni Association committees. And five, when the time is right for you, support TC financially by donating to the TC Fund. We're especially grateful for the TC alumni who share their knowledge through insight presentations and workshops, like the one we're about to hear, for all of the TC community to learn together. And now, I would like to introduce today's event's presenter, alumna Camille Wilson, who will be presenting Cheers, a virtual mixology workshop. Camille is a TC alum and New York City based cocktail blogger who loves daiquiris, brunch, and red lipstick. Since October of 2018, she has been sharing simple recipes for expertly crafted cocktails, as well as tips and tricks to help her readers host happy hours at home, no matter the size of their living room or budget. She's partnered with brands like Aberlour, Empress Gin, and Disaronno, and she was also highlighted in Food and Wine as one of the 20 Black mixologists to keep on your radar. When she's not blogging about drinks, she's bar hopping around New York City, shopping for chic glassware, or supporting the personal and professional growth of her students at her 9 to 5 gig. Her book, Free Spirit Cocktails, a collection of 40 original mocktail recipes published by Chronicle Books, will hit stores in November of 2022. Camille will be taking questions from the audience throughout the event, so feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A pane below. We will be utilizing the chat and polling during today's workshop. Both are located at the bottom of your screen. If you have any technical or audio issues, please use the chat below to let us know how we can help. And I hope that you have your bar tools ready, like your spoon and your muddler, because we're about to make some cocktails. So without further ado, please help me welcome Camille.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Camille Wilson. I'm a proud Teachers College grad. So a little bit about me, I graduated from TC with a double master's in psychological counseling back in 2012. And since then, I've continued pursuing a career in student affairs and higher education. So I've worked at a number of schools, mainly in New York City. And currently I work at NYU on the marketing and communications team within the admissions office. So in my role, I get to do some events for prospective and admitted students. And I'm also responsible for managing a group of about 200 student tour guides that we call admissions ambassadors. They are the reason that I drink all the time, love them dearly. But outside of my professional work, as Elisa mentioned, I am a cocktail blogger and content creator. So I started my blog about 2 years ago. It's called the Cocktail Snob. And the reason I started was to help people create their own happy hour at home. I find that there is this misconception that you need to have, really expensive alcohol or tons of different tools to make good drinks at home. And really, that's not the case. So hopefully by the end of our time together today, you will see that is true. And especially in these times where we've kind of been stuck at home in the middle of this pandemic, my blog has brought me a lot of joy. I've gotten to work with some really awesome brands, and I'm really excited to be here today to share my love of cocktails with you all. So before we jump in, I just wanted to talk through just a couple of quick mixology fundamentals, just 3 quick things. So the first thing is measuring. Measuring is really important when you're making cocktails because it just makes sure that your drink is balanced. That's what's going to make it taste great. So typically bartenders measure with something like this, which is called a jigger. You may have one that has a handle as well. So maybe it looks like this. If you don't have a jigger, it's totally fine. You can also use measuring cups, measuring spoons. I will walk you through some conversions as we go along. So if you have some tablespoons with you, that is perfect. So don't worry about doing like too much math. We really came here to drink, not to lecture on math. The second thing that's really important is mixing. So there are two ways that cocktails get mixed. So they're either shaken or stirred. So hopefully you have a cocktail shaker, something like this. If you don't, you can also use a water bottle. You can use a mason jar. There's so many different tools that you probably already have at home that you can use to shake your drink. You just need something that's going to be able to hold your liquid and hold ice as well. So we're gonna shake, we're also gonna stir. Hopefully you have a spoon handy, a butter knife also works really well. The thing with mixing, the important part about mixing is that it combines all the ingredients, but it also chills everything down, which is really when a drink is ice cold, that's really when it tastes the best. So hopefully you have your ice. If you don't, this is definitely your cue to go grab it. I have mine right here. And then my final reminder for everyone is just to make something that you like. So all of the recipes that we're making today are more classic cocktails, recipes that have been around for like probably centuries. So if you don't love them, I will not be offended. I will also kind of talk you through how to make them, better if you don't drink. Like if you want to make a mocktail version, I can talk you through that. If you want to switch up your alcohol, I can totally do that. But if you need to add, more sugar, more lemon juice or anything like that, please feel free. I want you all to have a good time. And like I said, I will not be upset if you switch up the recipes whatsoever. And then just to reiterate what Elisa said, we want this to be interactive. I know that I can't really see you, but I definitely would love to hear from you in the chat. If you have questions at any point, please feel free to just ask away. And throughout our session together, we're going to do a little bit of trivia. I have been to a lot of mixology classes where you kind of make all your drinks back to back, and before you know it, you are tipsy and you don't even remember what you did. You had no time to actually enjoy your drink. So to kind of break things up, we'll do a little bit of fun trivia, all alcohol related, in between our drinks. And I know as TC alum, everyone out there is super, super smart. We have so many geniuses in our community. So hopefully you'll learn a little something today as well. So with that, I am going to go ahead and get started. Enough talking, we came to drink. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so our first drink is going to be the French 75. So for this drink, you will need gin, lemon juice, simple syrup. Hopefully you were able to make that ahead of time. And of course, sparkling wine or champagne. So either one. I see people are saying they've already learned so much. I love to hear it. Awesome. So the French 75, I feel like is so celebratory. It has champagne. I know convocation was last week, so we're going to continue on that celebration train. So what I want everyone to do once you have your ingredients is grab your cocktail shaker or whatever it is that you're using to kind of mix things together. And what we're going to do is actually start off with our simple syrup. So what you're going to do is measure out 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. So if you are using tablespoons, that is about 1 tablespoon. So you can go ahead and just add that directly to your shaker. All right, so just 1/2 ounce of simple syrup or 1 tablespoon. And then our next ingredient is going to be our lemon juice. So you're going to add 1/2 ounce of lemon juice to your shaker. So I always recommend, if you can, I know not everyone wants to wants to squeeze citrus, but fresh citrus absolutely tastes the best when it comes to cocktails. I'm sure many of you know this, but the store-bought citrus, like store-bought lime juice or lemon juice, typically has sweetener or some other additives in it that kind of change the taste and kind of throw off the cocktail. So it kind of makes it a little unbalanced. So if you can, I recommend fresh. I use a C-press often. This is like the tool I use the most, just to kind of squeeze everything. It makes it a little bit easier. You can get these at the dollar store. You can get a fancy one at Crate and Barrel, but this helps me a ton. I actually use this the most of all the bar tools that I have. So I highly recommend getting a C-press so you can have fresh juice. And then our next ingredient is going to be our gin. So we're gonna add 1 ounce of gin. All right, so we're just gonna do 1 ounce, which is about 2 tablespoons of gin. Okay, so you can add that again directly to your shaker. So just a quick recap before we add our ice and shake everything together. So far we did 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, which is 1 tablespoon, 1/2 ounce of lemon juice, which is 1 tablespoon, and then we did 1 ounce of gin, which is about 2 tablespoons. All right, so once you have all of that in your shaker, we're gonna go ahead and add ice because we're gonna shake this, chill it down, and get it at its optimal temperature. So you don't really need a lot of ice because we're not going to serve it with ice. The French 75 is typically served in a lovely champagne flute without ice, topped with sparkling wine or champagne. So you can add a little bit of ice to your shaker. And then what you want to do when you're shaking is just make sure the ice is hitting both the bottom and the top of the shaker, because you want to make sure that the liquid is really getting chilled throughout. And we're going to shake for about 10 seconds. All right, so hopefully you're ready to shake. I'll do another quick recap of our ingredients. We did 1/2 ounce simple syrup, 1/2 ounce of lemon juice, and 1 ounce of gin. Then we added our ice, sealed it all up, and then we're gonna shake for about 10 seconds. All right, here we go. All right. So typically, once you start to feel your hands getting really icy, that's when you know that she is ready. So what you want to do is grab the glass that you're using. I have a champagne flute here, but really whatever you have at home is totally fine. I have a real love for glassware, especially antique glassware. So if you have just a regular drinking glass at home, a wine glass, whatever you have is totally fine. It's all going to taste the same anyway. All right, so what you're going to do with our mixture is we're going to strain it into the glass. So again, the French 75 is served without ice. So the shaker that I have has a built-in strainer. So I'm just going to strain it into the glass. If you don't have a built-in strainer, you can use a kitchen like strainer, like a mesh strainer that you might have in your kitchen. You can use a colander. You can really just block the ice however you can. So I'm going to go ahead and pour mine in. You can pour the whole thing. Amazing. So it will probably fill your flute maybe about half the way or so. And then our final ingredient is going to be our sparkling wine. So we are going to top it. You can measure if you want. The recipe calls for about 3 ounces. I like to just eyeball this part because I really love sparkling wine. So what you want to do is just, basically fill it to the top. And you'll notice that I'm using this tiny, tiny little baby bottle of sparkling wine as my drink overflows. I love to get these because it's hard to finish a full like 750 milliliter bottle for me. So if you have no problem finishing it, go and get the big bottle. I like the baby bottle because it's just so much easier to finish. None of it goes to waste. And it's a little bit easier to open. There's no cork on it. You just kind of twist off and you're good to go. So that is our French 75, but if we want, we could do a little garnish. So it's up to you. Typically the French 75 is garnished with a lemon twist, which is an easy garnish to do. It's a little bit difficult to demonstrate on Zoom. So what I'm gonna do instead is just I have a potato peeler here. This is absolutely not necessary. I'm just going to take a little bit of the peel off and then just drop it in. I love to make the drinks look pretty. So there you have it. That is our French 75. Amazing. So take a sip. Let me know how it goes. Cheers, everybody. Thank you, Monique. This is one of my favorite glasses. So let me know in the chat how it's tasting. Cheers. Mine tastes great. So I hope yours does too.
Mine tastes amazing. I don't know if everyone's joining in and making their cocktails with us, but I'm making them and I love mine. We actually just got a quick question for you, Camille. For the French 75, do you find that dry gins or sweeter gins work better?
That's a great question. So I like a drier gin for the French 75, but I think it also depends on which sparkling wine you're going to use. I think any gin will work, like whatever you have is perfect, but I find that drier gins work better with this. That's my preference at least, but that's a great question. If you wanted to make this a mocktail, you definitely could. So instead of, what you would do is kind of make like a sparkling lemonade kind of drink. So you could just add the simple syrup, the lemon juice, and instead of the gin and the champagne, you could just top it with sparkling water. You could even do like a tonic water. That's a really great way to make it into a mocktail. And I would still serve it in a lovely glass for a great experience. So hopefully this is good to you. Also, if you are a whiskey fan, the original French 75 was made with cognac, or like way back in the day, they made it with cognac instead of gin. And then after some years, someone had the bright idea to make a Kentucky 75, which is with whiskey instead of gin. So you could make the same recipe, but instead of the 1 ounce of gin, you would just add 1 ounce of whiskey. I've never tried it, but I want to. So if you do try it at home, let me know how it goes. It sounds amazing because I'm a big whiskey fan myself. So awesome. So while you all are sipping, we are going to do a little bit of trivia. So again, we're going to use the polling feature. So if you don't know the answer, it's totally fine. Just take your best guess. I don't think we have any prizes. I don't have any, but I think this will be really fun. So our first question, what's the most popular spirit in the United States? So take your best guess. Is it vodka, whiskey, rum, or tequila? Yes, I agree, Annie. Definitely try the cognac with it. Just 1 ounce of cognac instead of gin. Amazing. So it looks like about half the group said vodka, and then whiskey wasn't too far behind. So if you said vodka, you would be correct. So the most popular spirit in the United States is vodka. It has been this way for the last, I think, probably decade or so. Not sure why that is, maybe because it's such a neutral spirit. And I think a lot of people kind of start out drinking vodka, probably in college. I have no idea. Amazing. Good job, everyone. All right, so we'll go on to our second question for this round. So next is, all of the celebrities listed below have their own brand of tequila, except for who? Is it Kendall Jenner, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Snoop Dogg, or Diddy? So take your best guess. What do you think? Everyone on this list except one person has their own tequila. So who is that one person that does not? This is always a fun one to hear people's thoughts. All right, let's see your answers. All right, so it looks like most people said The Rock. And if you said The Rock, you are actually incorrect. So the correct answer for this one is Snoop Dogg. So Snoop Dogg is the only celebrity on this list that does not have his own tequila. So Kendall Jenner actually just came out with her own tequila just a few months ago. I don't remember the name, but she got a lot of backlash for it. But it's new to the market. The Rock's tequila is actually called Terramana, and he's had it for a few years now. So he does have his own. And Diddy, I think a lot of people get a little bit confused because they know Diddy for Ciroc, but a lot of people don't realize that he also has a tequila called De Leon. So Diddy has De Leon, and then Snoop Dogg has gin, actually, gin and juice. He has gin and wine, I believe. So the correct answer is Snoop Dogg. Awesome. So I think we just have one more question for this round. Or no, was that the last one? Yes, okay. So our third question. Happy hour is illegal in all of the states on this list, except for which one? Is it Massachusetts, North Carolina, Alaska, or Mississippi? What do you think? I don't know if anyone is tuning in from any of these places, so maybe you know a little something. But is it Massachusetts, North Carolina, Alaska, or Mississippi? All right. I'm glad you're enjoying the trivia. All right, so it looks like we had most votes for Massachusetts, but shockingly, the two folks that said Mississippi are correct. Mississippi is the only state on that list that has legal happy hour. So I believe that some of the old blue laws that have been on the books for like centuries just kind of still exist. Like I remember myself going to Boston and them telling me that happy hour is just not a thing there. But I think the way that a lot of places in those states kind of get around the rules is by offering like, you know, it's Taco Tuesday, so you get 3 tacos and a margarita for, you know, $15 or something like that. So technically it is illegal, but I think a lot of the businesses there have found ways around the rules, which is what I love to hear. Awesome. All righty, so we are going to get into our next drink, which is a strawberry Collins. So the strawberry Collins is kind of like my own riff on a Tom Collins, if you've ever had one before. So you'll need strawberries, our simple syrup again, lemon juice, and then of course gin and club soda or sparkling water, whichever will work just fine. All right, so just one more time, you'll need strawberries, simple syrup, lemon juice, gin, and club soda or sparkling water. Amazing. So this is a drink that does not require any shaking. We're actually going to make it in the glass and kind of stir it up with the ice. And it's super simple, super fresh. If you've ever had a Tom Collins before, they are super, super refreshing. And this one is no different. All right, so let's grab whatever glass you will be using. So you can grab it, put it in front of you. And the first thing we're going to do is actually prepare our strawberries. So if your strawberries have the tops on them, if you didn't pull them in advance, totally fine. I'm going to do that for mine right now. So you just want to make sure that you take the tops off. So you'll need 2, and then we'll save another one for our garnish afterward. So just take the tops off of 2 of your strawberries. So they'll look something like that. Just take the green parts off, and then you can just drop them in your glass. That's a big one. All right, so once you have your strawberries in there, you're gonna add 1/2 ounce or 1 tablespoon of our simple syrup. All right, so just 1/2 ounce, you can add it directly to the glass. One thing about simple syrup, hopefully you were able to either make it ahead of time or find it at the store. Simple syrup is like a bartender's secret weapon. It's a great ingredient to have on hand at all times. You probably have a big batch, so you're gonna definitely have some left over after our workshop is done. Maybe you'll not want to make some more drinks, but simple syrup can be stored in your refrigerator as long as it's sealed properly for about a month. So it's a really, really good to have on hand. I always have some in my fridge, whether I'm making cocktails, drinking tea. If you are a coffee drinker, you can even use simple syrup in your coffee. It's just a great ingredient because liquid mixes better with liquid. So it's just an easy way to add a little bit of sweetener, much more convenient than, you know, adding like granulated or powdered sugar to something. So I highly recommend just kind of keeping a batch in the fridge because you can use it for so many things. Okay, so once you have your 2 strawberries and your simple syrup, what you're going to do is grab a muddler. So I have a muddler here, looks something like this. If you don't have a muddler at home, that's totally fine. You can also use the back of a wooden spoon. You just need something with like a blunt surface to help you kind of juice the strawberries. That's really what we're doing when we're muddling. So anything that looks similar to this, even like the back of a big knife could work, a back of a wooden spoon, like I said, all of that will be super helpful when you're trying to juice the strawberries by hand. So what we're gonna do is basically muddle the simple syrup with the strawberry. And really, like I said, you're just trying to get the juice out of it. And this is a really great way to use up fruit. Cocktails in general are a really great way to use up fruit that is kind of on its last leg, you know, like maybe getting a little overly ripe because it tends to be a little bit sweeter. So when I have fruit that's like about to go bad, I try to figure out a way that I can just drink it, basically. All right, so hopefully you have muddled your strawberry. You don't need to do it too much, just depends on how big or small they are, but it'll look something like that at the bottom. All right, So then once you have your simple syrup and your strawberries muddled together, what you're gonna do is add 1 ounce of lemon juice. So we're back with our lemon juice again. So we're gonna add 1 ounce of lemon juice or 2 tablespoons, the same thing. So 1 ounce of lemon juice, just add it directly to your glass. All right, and then last but not least, we are gonna add our gin. So we're gonna add 2 ounces of gin, which is the same as 4 tablespoons or 1/4 of a cup. All right, so add that again directly to your glass. So quick recap before we add our ice. So far we muddled 2 strawberries with 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. Then we added 1 ounce of lemon juice and then 2 ounces of gin. All right, we added everything to the glass. No need for a shaker. We're just gonna really stir this one all together. All right, so then we are gonna go ahead and add our ice. So same thing as before. You don't really need a ton of ice. We wanna add enough so that it will cool the drink down. So what we're gonna do now, after we've added our ice, is stir it together before we top it with our sparkling water. So go ahead and give it a stir. We wanna get maybe like 20 rotations or so to make sure that all the ingredients are getting combined. So remember, we have our strawberry bits in there. We have some syrup, we have some lemon juice. So you really wanna stir it to kind of combine everything and get it chilled. And then our last step is to add some sparkling water. So this is where personal preference really comes into play. So if you like it a little bit sweeter, a little bit stronger, you can do a splash of club soda. If you want it to be a little less sweet or a little less strong, you can, fill your glass to the top. And maybe it depends on how big your glass is, but it's really up to you how much you want to add. All right, so this is totally a customizable one for sure. And this drink is also a great one to make into a mocktail. It would basically be like a strawberry lemonade, sparkling strawberry lemonade. All right, so then our last step is just to garnish it. So if you have another strawberry, you can just grab it and kind of stick it on the side. Totally up to you. This does not really add anything to the flavor whatsoever, but it does make it pretty for Instagram if that's important to you. So there we have our Strawberry Collins, which is a remix of the Tom Collins. So cheers, everyone. Hopefully you made it. Tell me how it goes. Tell me how it's tasting.
I don't know about everyone else on the call, but I did not have strawberries. So I'm just doing a normal Tom Collins, and it's lovely. So I hope everyone is enjoying their Strawberry Collins, or if they're like me, they're Tom Collins.
I love it. And if you want, you can, of course, mix the club soda in a little bit more, because sometimes when you just top it, you kind of get just the club soda to start. So if you want to, you can, of course, mix it in. But I'm glad that your Tom Collins is tasting great, Elisa. That sounds good. Add that next.
Oh, we have someone who made it with mango.
Yeah, I love mango. That sounds really good. I'm gonna try that too. Yeah, maybe you could even
really upset. I wish I had mango now.
Yeah, I think it's a great drink to try different fruits in, like especially berries, but I actually would love to try it with mango too. Sounds great. Awesome. So while you are, yes, improvisation, like I said, whatever you have, we could use it. So while you all are sipping on this lovely Strawberry Collins, we're gonna do our next round of trivia. So still about alcohol. It's still all about alcohol. So take your best guess. Hopefully you're not too tipsy and you can still answer. So our first question for this round, according to Drinks International, what is the most popular cocktail in the world? Is it the Daiquiri? Is it the whiskey sour, the martini, or the old fashioned? So take your best guess. You have some good options here. Let me know what you think. And let's see what you said. So looks like we had a lot of votes for the martini. So there is one lucky person who said old fashioned, and they are correct. So the old fashioned, according to Drinks International, which is a pretty reputable publication in the drinks world, the old fashioned is actually the most popular cocktail in the world, if you can believe that. I don't know if anyone has ever had an old fashioned. It's a really strong spirit forward drink, but that is the most popular one. So good try, everybody.
I'm so shocked. This is one of the questions that I had seen, and I was actually really nervous because I was like, I don't know if I'm right. And I actually guessed the martini as well. The old fashioned is one of my favorite cocktails, but I was like, not everyone always knows about it. So I'm like flabbergasted that it's the one. But yeah, Christine just mentioned Madman's. Maybe that's what's bringing it there.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, my favorite is not the old fashioned. I do like them, but the daiquiri is definitely my number one. So for a long time, that's what I assumed, because the classic daiquiri, I think a lot of times people think of the daiquiri as a frozen kind of like pink drink that you get in Miami. But the daiquiri is actually rum, sugar, and lime. So I was like, oh, it has to be that. The ingredients are so simple, but I was wrong too. It's actually the old fashioned. So now we know.
That was a fun trivia. Thank you for letting us know. Like, I definitely got that wrong.
We're here to learn together. All right.
So I think we have one more, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, here we go.
Amazing. So this is one of my favorite questions. What is Mexico's most popular tequila-based cocktail, which is great coming off the heels of Cinco de Mayo yesterday? Is it the Margarita, the Bloody Maria, the Paloma, or the Cuba Libre? What do you think? Take your best guess. This one is tricky too. They're all tricky, I think, but hopefully you'll leave with some new knowledge today. Let's see, I'm excited to see what people are saying. And it looks like Margarita is in the lead with the Paloma not too far behind. And the answer is Paloma. So the Paloma is Mexico's most popular tequila-based drink. If you've never had a Paloma before, they are absolutely delicious. It is literally just 2 ounces of tequila topped with grapefruit soda and sometimes a squeeze of lime. That is it. It is such a simple cocktail, but so refreshing, so good, especially if you are a grapefruit fan. And if you use a soda like Jarritos or Ting, like it just really is so good and so easy. Like as much as I love like shaking and mixing things, sometimes I just want something simple, and the Paloma is definitely the answer for that. So if you haven't tried one, you should, because they're amazing. Yes, Ting, Monique, do you know about it? It's delicious. My family's Caribbean, so Ting was definitely a staple when I was growing up in my household. So good. So good. Awesome. Oh yeah, okay. It looks like a couple people have definitely tried it, which is amazing. Yeah, definitely. Ting is my favorite, but Jarritos is a great one too. I think Squirt makes a grapefruit soda as well. So those are some great recommendations if you're looking for grapefruit soda. Amazing. Thank you all so much for being so interactive. I really, really appreciate it. Alrighty, so we are gonna get into our last cocktail before we dive into some Q&A. And we're switching gears a little bit and going over to whiskey, which I love. And we're gonna make a whiskey smash. So for this cocktail, you will need some mint leaves, a whole lemon, which we'll kind of cut up together, simple syrup again, which is really like my best friend. We've used it in all 3 cocktails. And then, like I said, we're switching over to whiskey. So you'll need your whiskey for this one. And the whiskey smash, while you're gathering your ingredients, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's my favorite. And for people who say they don't like whiskey, every time I make them this or show them how to make this, they are instantly converted. So it's a really good one. I know sometimes people feel like dark liquor is not for the spring and summer. This is, I mean, you can drink this at any time, but this is definitely one that is like a porch sipper. Like you can drink it outside. It's good for summer. It just kind of tastes like an adult lemonade kind of. So this is a really, really good one. All right, so let's get into it. We are going to use our shaker again. So if you need to rinse it out or empty it, go ahead and do that. So we're gonna do a little bit of shaking and a little bit of muddling one more time. So first thing we're gonna do is actually grab a lemon. So hopefully you have a lemon with you, and we're gonna cut it into wedges. So the way that I like to cut it to make it a little bit easier to muddle is cutting it the long way. So I take the lemon and cut it first in half the long way. So cut it like that. So then you'll have two halves that look like this. And then you just cut them in half one more time. So cut it in half. So you'll have 4 wedges that look like that. Perfect for juicing. So the first thing we're going to do is actually just take 3 of them, and add them to our shaker. So 3 of the 4 wedges that you just cut, you can just toss them into your shaker. All right. So then once you have your lemon wedges in there, we're going to grab our mint, and we're going to take about 5 to 7 mint leaves. You actually want to take them off of the stem and then drop them into your shaker. So if you are a mint fan, feel free to add more than 5 to 7. If you don't love mint, I would go with 5, because 5 to 7 is a good range. But again, you just want to take the leaves off of the stem. I love mint, so I'm definitely going to overdo it, but you don't have to do it like me. Definitely, I want you to enjoy it, so feel free to add as much or as little as you'd like. All right, so far we just have our 3 lemon wedges and about 5 to 7 mint leaves added to our shaker. And then the next thing we're going to do is add some more simple syrup. So we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, which is about a tablespoon and a half. So 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, or a tablespoon and a half. All right, so quick recap, because we're getting ready to muddle. We did 3 lemon wedges, 5 to 7 mint leaves, and then 3/4 of an ounce or a tablespoon and a half of simple syrup. So then what you want to do is grab your muddler again, and we're basically juicing these lemons by hand and kind of muddling the mint to get that minty flavor out, because the more that you muddle the mint, the more the oils get released. So we're gonna just kind of muddle it to get the juice and the oils out. When you are muddling, try your best to avoid the skin of the lemon, because if you hit it a little bit too much, it will become a little bit bitter. So as much as you can. It can be a little hard because the shaker is small, but you know, just try to juice in the center and not so much on the skin. Definitely need a little elbow grease with this one. This is my cardio, I think, for the week. So I'm gonna go hard on this one. All right, so that looks good to me. So hopefully you got your ingredients muddled. So then the next thing we're gonna do is add our whiskey. So we're gonna use 2 ounces of whiskey, which is the same as 4 tablespoons or 1/4 of a cup. All right, so 2 ounces of whiskey, which is 4 tablespoons or 1/4 of a cup. Add that there. And then quickly before we add our ice, I'll just review one more time, just in case you missed anything. I know it's also in the chat. We muddled together our 5 to 7 mint leaves with 3 lemon wedges and 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. And then we just added 2 ounces of whiskey. All right, so then we are gonna add our ice. Same as always, you really don't need too much. The whiskey smash is served with ice. So if that affects how much ice you put, just wanna let you know. So then once you have your ice, you're going to close up your shaker, and then we're gonna shake it for 10 seconds. If you are making a mocktail version of this, obviously you can skip the whiskey and then you can still shake. And at the end, what we'll do is add a little bit of sparkling water. All right, so let's go ahead and shake for about 10 seconds. Yeah, and I see Annie is asking about the type of whiskey. It really doesn't matter for this recipe, in my opinion. I think whichever whiskey you have on hand or whichever type is your favorite works really, really well. I love bourbon. It just has like a little bit of a sweeter taste, but any whiskey will work for the whiskey smash for sure. All right, so now what you want to do is grab your glass. So this is another time where it really depends on personal preference. If you don't love to see like mint or things kind of floating in your drink as you're sipping, What I would do is add fresh ice to your glass and then strain the mixture on top of that. So I'll say that one more time. If you do not want mint and, you know, lemon wedges and seeds kind of floating around in your drink, what I would do is add fresh ice to your glass and then strain the liquid on top of that. If you don't mind, I think it actually looks kind of pretty. If you don't mind having the mint and everything kind of floating around, you can do what's called a dirty dump, which is what I will do. And that's just when you pour everything from the shaker directly into your glass. Yes, Annie, even Irish whiskey, I think would taste really good with this. Amazing. And then of course, as always, we cannot forget our garnish. My mint looks a little bit sad, but I'm still gonna, no, I won't do it. It looks too sad. I'm gonna just take that extra lime wedge that we didn't use earlier, cut a little slit, and then I'm gonna stick that on the side as my garnish. If you made the mocktail version, what you would do is just pour the liquid in there and then top it with your sparkling water. All right, so that is the whiskey smash. Cheers, everybody. Please tell me how it tastes. This is one of my favorites.
It's delicious. I feel like I'm at the Derby.
I love that. Amazing. It's very refreshing, good for summer, good for any time of year, really. Definitely a fan favorite for me. Awesome. Well, that was our final drink. So I think we're gonna take some questions. So if you haven't already, I guess you can drop your questions in the Q&A box and hopefully we can get to them.
First off, I just want to tell you, thank you so much for guiding us through this journey. I have all these yummy drinks in front of me, which I'm really excited about. And I know everyone's really been enjoying it. I know we have a couple people who are watching it. That's unfortunately it's morning. So hopefully they've been able to do the mocktail version of it or just been taking notes. So when it is, you know, not 10 a.m. in the morning, they can make these drinks.
Absolutely.
So we have a couple of different questions coming out. And so the first question, we talked a lot about club soda today. Yeah. What is the difference between club soda versus tonic water?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a question I get kind of often, actually. So the difference really is something called quinine, which is in tonic water, but it is not in sparkling water or club soda.
Okay.
And that's what gives the tonic water kind of like that bitter taste. So that's really the main difference. Like tonic water tastes a little bitter, and every brand makes theirs a little bit different. But to me, they all taste bitter. But sparkling water doesn't really have any of that. It's really just like water with bubbles, and club soda has a bit of sodium in it. So that's really the main difference between all those like bubbly mixers.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for letting me. I had no idea. I just knew that I never enjoyed tonic water. So now I know why. Perfect.
Good to know. Yeah.
So as we all know, yesterday was Cinco de Mayo. So we have a couple people who are attending today that I was wondering if you have like your favorite go-to margarita recipe that's easy to make.
Sorry, there was a siren passing because New York City. Honestly, my favorite margarita is a classic one. So it's really simple. It's 2 ounces of Blanco tequila, 3/4 of an ounce of an orange liqueur. So like triple sec or Cointreau, which is my absolute favorite. And then 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup and 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. And that's it. Shake that with some ice. And that is like the best margarita you can ever have. I also love mango. We were talking about that earlier. I love mango. So if you could use that same recipe and just add like an ounce or 2 of mango juice. I get the canned mango juice from Trader Joe's. It just tastes so good. It tastes really like fresh mango. So those are my favorites, the classic or the mango. Super duper simple.
That sounds fantastic. And now I feel like we should make a margarita now. So this is actually a question that I have, and like I know a lot of people struggle with this. You know, one of the things, you know, one of the reasons why we do this is because we love making cocktails for ourselves and things like that. But if you're you're living alone or you're just making a single cocktail, once, every 2 weeks or so, but we have to buy like a bunch of mint leaves and things like that. Do you have any recommendations on how to buy these special ingredients, knowing that we're only going to use like a little bit at a time?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think with when it comes to things like herbs, you can use them in other ways. Like let's say you wanted to make a whiskey smash and you use like 5 or 7, then you have this whole bunch left over. You can make it into a syrup. It's super easy to do. You just do 1 part water, 1 part sugar, and like however much mint you have left over. That's a really good way to use it up. And then you can also use that in a cocktail and it'll stay fresh in your fridge for like 2 weeks, as opposed to mint, which could die like, which could go bad in like a few days. So you could turn it into a syrup. You can use it in your food recipes. The good thing I will say about like actual alcohol is that it doesn't really go bad. So once you open it, the shelf life is maybe like a year or 2, but I feel like in a year, people will kind of use up most of it, if not all of it. So good thing you don't have to worry about the alcohol. I think some of the fresher, like, non-shelf stable stuff is definitely harder to use up, but use it in your tea, use it in an iced tea, a lemonade, make a syrup with it. Really, you can use that recipe, the 1 part sugar, 1 part water plus X, and that will kind of make things last a little bit longer. You can also freeze certain things. I'm not sure about herbs, but like, let's say you have fruit, you can also freeze your fruit and use it later. You can kind of use it as like an ice cube in a cocktail. You can make a frozen drink if you toss it in the blender. Like there's so many different ways that you can utilize it. So freeze it or make a syrup, and alcohol doesn't really go bad. Those are my recommendations.
Thank you so much. So that actually leads me to kind of another question that I have. We talked about simple syrup and making our own, which is super simple, hence the name. It's just water and sugar and you boil it and then you let it cool. Do you have a favorite like way you infuse your simple syrup, and like what do you infuse it with? What's like your favorite thing to do with it?
Oh, that's a great question. One of my favorite infusions is with rosemary. So I make a rosemary simple syrup from time to time. It is really good. Similar, it's like 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of water, and then about 1/4 of a cup of rosemary leaves. You just kind of take them off the stem. Just kind of, same thing, you kind of boil it, and then you would turn off the heat and let it simmer not simmer, let it just steep for about 30 minutes. And then you have rosemary syrup. You just strain it into a container, and then that'll stay fresh in your fridge for about 2 weeks. And you can use it in so many things, the same way you would use regular simple syrup, whether it's tea or coffee. I've made like a rosemary gimlet. You can, if you're making a margarita, you can sub that out for your simple syrup. So there's so many different ways. Like just try it. It's so good.
Yeah, I feel like the possibilities are endless with that. I love that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, for sure.
So one of the questions we have, and I love whiskey. Bourbon's also like one of my favorites too. It's like near and dear to my heart. And one of the questions that I've seen a lot of people ask me, and I'm now going to ask you, what is the difference between whiskey, bourbon, Scotch, and cognac?
Great question.
And brandy, like what is the difference between all of these? Because they're just, to a lot of people, they're just like, it's dark brown liquor.
Yeah, that's it. You're right. That's a really great question. So whiskey is one category, brandy is another, and cognac is kind of technically another. So whiskey is like an umbrella term to describe a spirit that's made with like barley and grains. So whiskey is, like I said, like the general category, but underneath that category, there's bourbon, which can only be made in the US. And then there's Scotch, which can only be made in Scotland. And then there's Irish whiskey, which obviously can only be made in Ireland. So really the umbrella term is whiskey, but the different names just kind of tell you a little bit about where it's from and like how much percent of like grain and barley is in each one. That's really the only difference. So it's really just, they're all whiskey technically. And then the names just tell you a little bit about the characteristics without you having to like pick up the bottle and read it every time. That's really the only difference. So whiskey is like umbrella term, for the category, and then those are, you know, kind of what separates those other ones. So brandy and cognac are kind of similar. So cognac is just brandy that's made in France. That's literally it. They're pretty much the same spirit. They're both made they're distilled from grapes. But in order for something to be called cognac, it has to be made in the cognac region of France. It's almost like sparkling wine. I don't know if people know this. Like, in order for something to be called champagne, it has to be made in the Champagne region of France. So like, this is a sparkling wine made in Italy, so it is not champagne, but champagne is made in France. That is not. So that's really the only difference. So it's like the category, it gets very confusing. So hopefully that is like a simpler way to explain it. But that's pretty much how that goes.
Thank you so much for that. I know, like, when people ask me, I'm like, okay, let's sit down, give me 5 minutes. Let me like
Right.
draw the outlines for you, a little flow chart and stuff like that. So I appreciate you giving us the simple, exactly. Let me like bring out my deck for this. So I appreciate you giving us the simplified explanation. So we just got this fun question. So whenever you're building your bar at home, you always have to have your staples. You're going to have like some type of whiskey, some type of rum, gin, vodka. But they're curious, when you're doing, you know, you're making cocktails at home, which liquor do you gravitate the most to?
Ooh, it varies from week to week. I would say rum is number one for me. I mentioned earlier, my family's from the Caribbean, so growing up, rum was just kind of a staple. Obviously, I wasn't drinking it as a kid, but they use it to cook, and like when you're sick, you kind of sniff it, and they rub it on your chest for congestion. So rum is definitely a go-to, and that's the main spirit in a daiquiri. And I think after that, I would probably say whiskey is my second go-to, because like the whiskey smash is so good and refreshing, and I think I just can think of whiskey recipes off the top of my head, like unlimited. So rum and whiskey are definitely my two go-tos. And I would say, like, people often ask me like where to start when you're building your home bar. I say start with what you like. That's number one. Start with what you like, and then you can kind of build out from there.
Well, we're definitely going to connect afterwards on like other fun whiskey recipes, because that's definitely my go-to. I'm a big, like I said earlier, I'm a big bourbon fan, love ryes and things like that. So we'll connect afterwards about more fun recipes.
Absolutely.
So, you know, when I was reading your bio, we kind of talked about one of your favorite things to do is bar hopping in New York City. So we have a couple of people wondering if you have, you know, a list of some of your favorite places for, you know, really fantastic cocktails in New York City.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite places is in Harlem, actually not too far from TC. It's called 67 Orange, and it's a Black-owned bar right on 116th and Frederick Douglass, I want to say. And it's speakeasy style. It's not quite a speakeasy, but it's speakeasy style. It's super cozy, and they just have amazing drinks in there. Their menu, pre-COVID, I don't think they do it anymore, their menus were kind of hidden in like books. So it was super cute, like going along with the speakeasy theme. So that's definitely one of my favorite places. I see Samantha also loves them. I also really love, let's see, if you are looking for like a rooftop, because that's what we do in New York, right? We go to the rooftops. I really love, it's a little pricey, but the William Vale Hotel has a rooftop called Westlight at the top of it. It is gorgeous, beautiful views, like just amazing. The cocktails are great. Again, pricey, but the cocktails are really, really good. And I don't know, you just feel like a New Yorker. You're just like, yes, I'm having my drink up in the clouds, and like this just feels great. And I can give you one more. Let's see. Another good place. I'm trying to think of another area. And a place that I feel like is almost like you feel like you're just like kind of going to your neighborhood bar is another place in Brooklyn called Ode to Babel. Super cozy and tiny again, but really good drinks. And it's the type of place you go to where the bartenders kind of remember you and remember the things that you like. So it just feels like very familiar, and I don't know, a place that you could kind of go and spend some time outside. They have a backyard. So it's really, really fun. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that list. And um, unfortunately, we're kind of at time, which I know we're all kind of upset about because we just had such an amazing time with you this hour. So, Camille, thank you so much for taking the time out of your
Yes.
day to teach us how to make us a French 75 and a strawberry Collins, as well as a whiskey smash, and then teaching us all these fun things about liquor that we had no idea. Like, I know I was definitely like stumped by a couple of them. So seriously, thank you so much for all of your insights and information. We just absolutely had so much fun. And I know we have a couple of people who are like, we need to do a part two. So we'll be in conversations.
Yes,
So thank you
absolutely.
so much, Camille. And then
Thank you so
everyone,
much.
of course, and everyone, I just want to let you know that we will be sharing the recording and all the recipes for the 3 cocktails, as well as Camille's website and the post-event email. So stay tuned to that to your emails, and also stay tuned to our TC emails as well as social media for details on future events, including Behind the Screen, Combating Microaggressions in the Workplace, with alumna Gina Torino on May 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will also be announcing our summer lineup soon, so keep an eye out for that as well. Everyone, thank you again for joining us today. We hope to see you at future TC alumni events. Until then, thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Amazing. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.